So for my senior program, I'll be exploring the development of lacrosse outside of the United States. So my objective slash essential question is to answer the question, how has lacrosse developed globally in contrast to the United States of America? So lacrosse has had a rich history in the United States. It's one of the first sports. It was introduced to the United States in the late 1880s, but globally, it's still a relatively new game. So this program will give me the opportunity to address and really understand the differences between lacrosse in America and lacrosse globally. And so for the motivation and background, I've often been the only player of color on the lacrosse field, which started right when I started playing lacrosse at the age of 8, which sparked my desire to conduct an independent study through Blake over the first semester, which sadly I was only able to explore lacrosse domestically because there was not enough time. So this program really gives me the opportunity to explore lacrosse globally. And so the first independent study gave me a very solid foundation to complete this global study. And so during that independent study, I kind of had three main takeaways. Why the history of sport is important, which I found and through supplemental background research has really the history of sport really gives us a way to analyze human behavior. And in lacrosse, that is through the lacrosse pro persona, which developed as a result of the creators' choices to accept a more amateur game as opposed to a professional game like in baseball and football, because people didn't have the opportunity to pursue lacrosse as a moneymaker. You had to be able to make money in other ways and have the time to play lacrosse as a hobby. And so after establishing the creation of this lacrosse pro persona, then I had to really map why it has the negative connotation, which I did by looking at two cases, the Duke rape lacrosse case and the murder of Yeardley Love, two cases that put the lacrosse pro persona in an extremely negative spotlight. And so that foundation of of all the history of sport, the existence of this persona, as well as the negative connotation here in the United States, has given me a very solid background into doing this compare and contrast paper, which is the end goal of my project. And so I have a very solid background and foundation. So in terms of logistics, I do have to contend with two APs during the first week. On Monday, May 24th, I have a calc test, which basically accounts for the morning. And so I plan on conducting interviews during this process. So on the Monday, I plan on conducting and transcribing 2 interviews. And then for the rest of the night, just giving me time to read and take notes on the readings. And then Tuesday, since I have an afternoon AP, I plan on using the morning to study, and then taking the AP will obviously be in the afternoon, which gives me less time to conduct interviews. And so that time will just be used for reading and note taking. So then on the Wednesday and the Thursday of the first week, that will be where I crank out most of my interviews. And so I'll plan on doing 4 interviews each day, which with the first 2 amounts to 10 total interviews. And so I'll conduct and transcribe the 4 of those interviews. And then at night for both of those days, I will start working on an outline because, again, the end goal is to write this paper. So I need to get started on that in the first week as well. So then for Friday and the second week, it's essentially all writing. So the Friday will be used to complete the outline. And then for week 2, I've much less of an exact timing of how I'm gonna write all, like when exactly what times I'm gonna write paragraphs. but the way that I calculated these is in my first paper, I had 33 paragraphs. And since I have all my resources assembled and I'll have this outline and just need to write these paragraphs based on my experience writing the first essay, each paragraph will take around 30 to 45 minutes. And so going at a pace of 8 to 10 paragraphs per day, I'll be able to finish a good rough draft of my paper on Thursday, June 3rd, which gives me Friday to edit, revise, complete the bibliography and footnotes, and then address whatever else, giving me a solid rough draft and something that I can show off, and which will enable me to meet my goal of completing this paper. And then, so risks, see two main risks. I mentioned that I plan on doing 10 interviews. So, coordinating these interviews is a potential risk because I have to account for language barriers, time difference, and people saying no. And the way I plan on addressing this risk is by offering people the opportunity to answer by email so they don't have to meet face to face, even though that is the preferred method. And then time is another thing that I have to account for because with AP tests, I'm in more of a time crunch. But based on my experience with the first paper, I believe that I am well equipped to handle this truncated program. And then resources, I have a wealth of resources looking at lacrosse domestically, like the two books you see pictured here. Globally, I have resources on the Netherlands, Canada, China, Israel, Uganda, as well as many other countries. And then I also have resources looking at a host of diversity issues in the sport, ranging from race to gender to sexual orientation and disability. So I'm able to really analyze the sport from all different angles, both domestically and internationally. And so for documentation, I plan on keeping detailed notes on all of the interviews and readings while also having complete transcriptions of the interviews. And then obviously the final part of this documentation process is the final paper, which is my end goal, which really shows off all the time and effort I've put in while also demonstrating everything that I've taken away from the interviews and readings. And so I believe that the end goal being the paper is really the best form of documentation that I can have, and then the interviews and readings as well as the transcriptions really just serve as supplementary to enhance the work that I've done. So thank you.